Hello, book lovers, and welcome to Book Talk Radio Club. My name is Claire Harris, and today I'm talking with Jason Hill. Jason is the author of a number of novels, poetry, and more, but today we will be talking about his recently published book, Social Hill. Part novel, part memoir, Social Hill is a true story of a good man with great potential and a mood disorder, living far under his potential, who's failed at just about everything: college, the Navy, more colleges, relationships, several jobs. Tony Hill, a black bipolar father with two kids trapped in an unhappy interracial marriage, is about to get a rude introduction, and neither he or anyone else will ever be the same. Let's find out more. Hi Jason, thank you for coming to talk to me on Book Talk Radio Club.
Hi, Claire.
The story of the man who went to jail over a cat. I think we need to start off with an explanation, Jason, if you would please.
Sure. Well, as you mentioned in your introduction, the novel is part fiction, part biography, and the protagonist, the narrator, is a cat lover, or lover of cats, is much like I am. So the narrator is a reflection of that, and the climactic scene of the book is tied in with the relationship he has with his feline, and that explains that tagline there.
Ah, right. So it's partly a novel, partly a memoir. Why did you decide to write it that way rather than just a memoir?
Well, Social Hill is the first of many books that I would go on to write. And since I was a young man, I had always wanted to write fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I had a gift for writing. Although, as I grew older and imagination was replaced by experience, I realized it wasn't as easy. And I found myself not only lacking the confidence, but lacking what I thought was the ability to spin my own tales out of pure fancy. And so one day, the year that the book was written, I found myself incarcerated, and the universe kind of tapped me on the shoulder and kind of whispered in my ear and said, you know, that story you've always wanted to write, well, you just lived it. And I had recently become aware that there was the legitimate genre out there called the autobiographical novel.
Mm-hmm.
And so I combined some real life traumatic experiences with my facility to write, and I changed all the names to protect the innocent.
Mm-hmm.
And I created kind of my own lane there, and I realized I could write a memoir later, but I wanted my first book to have that feel of real fiction, and so that was why I decided to do it that way.
So Tony Hill is the main character with a name, of course, very close to yours. How different, though, is he from you?
Well, he is not too much different. What we both have in common was a unique talent for making bad decisions. But
Don't we all?
right, thank you. I feel better now. Uh, but he's not that much different. Really, I do take a few liberties. However, I think with Tony, he ends up being much more loved than I found myself. Many people who read the book when the book first came out fell in love with Tony,
Mm.
sometimes literally, and which was always surprising to me because Tony makes some decisions in the book where you literally cringe, and you don't always like Tony, but more often than not, I found that people people after reading the book um, have come to uh, love Tony, and they end up contacting me, and that's happened more than once. And I've actually one of those readers I gained a lifelong friendship with, and that person is still important in my life. So
I love that. I love that. So let's start at the beginning. Here's Tony Hill, or should I say Jason Hill, a black, bipolar father with 2 kids trapped in an unhappy interracial marriage. How did you, get to that point?
well, kind of out of a misguided sense of obligation. Uh, I have 2 children who are 19 and 18 respectively now. At the time that the novel begins, those 2 children are very young, and the mother of the children, with whom I had a relationship, I always wanted a family, but unfortunately, as fate would have it, the person who ended up having my children, it was not, shall we say, a fairy tale romance, but I felt that at the time that children would grow up mentally stable and healthy if they had 2 parents living in the home. I come from a broken home, raised by a single mother, the middle of 3 children, and was not happy with the fact that my father was not a regular presence after I was 10 years old. And so I felt like the best thing I could do for my children was to marry their mother. And one of the themes of the book, the major theme of the book, one of them is that you can be a good parent mostly if you're a happy parent, and being happy sometimes does not require you to marry the other biological parent, and it is possible to raise healthy, stable children without necessarily marrying someone that you don't love romantically. That was a hard lesson to learn, but through the course of the book and in life, I did learn that.
Barred from seeing your 2 children for 24 months after your release from prison, you embarked on a path of redemption by your own hand, penning the first of 4 autobiographical novels. Why was that a path to redemption, Jason?
Because basically I had failed everything else I had attempted in life. I was the first person in my family to go to a large 4-year university, going to the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana in the fall of 1989, and not graduating, being kicked out academically after the end of my sophomore year, and then I would go on to ply my trade or work at several different jobs over the years, and never quite making it work. And then I even tried at age 28 to join the military, thinking that would straighten me out. That also didn't work, and basically realizing that I had this dormant potential, and so really I got serious about it. And so my personal path of redemption was realizing that more than anything, the key to making myself happy was unlocking this unused potential of writing. And so really what became most important to me was realizing that believing in myself was not the exclusive domain of the undiagnosed, that you can be bipolar, you can struggle with your mood, but yourself and make progress. And so that became my path of redemption, and has led me to talking to you today.
Give me a brief idea about your life in prison. What was it like?
Oh, that could be a whole nother interview, but I found myself incarcerated, and as a result of the mistakes that Tony makes in the book. And it was a real eye-opening experience. I found myself locked up with people who didn't like me, some people who did accept me. I remember an experience I related in the book in which in jail it's very segregated racially. I found myself not accepted by the quote-unquote black population because my very first day where they had the lunch and the food, I was excluded from the table of those who looked like me. But fortunately, there was someone sitting at the white table or Caucasian table, what they call the Peckerwoods. And there was a very friendly gentleman who saw what happened, and I nearly had tears in my eyes, and he said, they put the squeeze on you, huh? And I said, yeah. And, well, you can sit here, he said, and I would sit with them through the duration of my time there. So it was very eye-opening, but it was very enlightening, and I came out of that experience knowing myself better and being more confident. And soon after my release was when I started Social Hill.
One of your reviewers says, and I quote, "Riveting, a masterpiece in the understanding of bipolar disorder. Leaves you with tears but hope. I loved it." So how much of the bipolar would you put down to the experiences you write about in your book?
I would say it accounts for many of the experiences. I can't blame all of Tony's bad decisions on bipolar. Some of it is just a lack of common sense and wisdom. But bipolar does have something to do with it. I think a lot of us struggle with mood disorders, but
Sure.
Not all of us are diagnosed.
True.
I'm only speaking for myself, but I would say maybe 50-50.
Tell us about your childhood. How did bipolar affect that time in your life?
Well, I wasn't aware of the diagnosis until I was an adult.
Right.
I knew that I struggled with depression as a teenager. I remember one time in particular when I was 17 years old in Chicago, and my younger sister was out on a date, my older brother was out on a date, even my mother was out on a date, and I was sitting at home. This had to be 1988, and I remember just getting angry, and I took my glasses off and I threw them across the room, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? You know, growing up in Chicago after being raised by my mother in some suburban areas of Maryland and the like, suddenly being thrust in my teenage years in an inner city urban setting was eye-opening, because like many ethnicity and racial groups, you have a class system. I was always accused of not being black enough, which still follows me sometimes, but it's a big difference now between how it affects me and how it did then. But no, I didn't receive a diagnosis. Back then it was called manic depression.
Absolutely.
But it affected me, but I wasn't aware that it affected me until my 30s when I received the official diagnosis.
At the beginning of chapter 1, you say, "I'm a good man, but in no sense of the word an easy person." Please explain that, Jason. I think a lot of people could say the same.
Well, I think myself as a good person, but I immediately, in that second clause of that sentence, put that caveat because I realized anyone starting this book, seeing that first phrase, "I am a good man," it might sound like a bit of self-aggrandizement, and so I'm very quick, to put that down at the second part of the sentence. I like to think of myself as a friendly person, but I do have what my best friend calls an edge to me, and she likes that about me. But I have been shaped, whether I like it or not, by some experiences that I won't give away, and I'll leave it for readers to decide.
You've come so far. What would you say to your younger self if you could sit down and have a conversation with him, especially at the worst times?
I just say basically, don't give up, Jason. You will become you've always wanted to be.
Oh.
But nothing happens without action. You need to get to work.
Yeah, absolutely. Jason, you're now not only an author and a poet, but you also have your own publishing company, Resilience Inc. Press LLC. Tell me, will there be more books about your experience, or have you said what you needed to say?
Oh, not by a long shot, Claire. I did go on, as I said, as you thankfully so pointed out, that I did go on to write other books. The decision to write Social is kind of an autobiographical novel, was based partly on the fact that I still did not have enough confidence to weave tales out of pure fancy, pure fiction, as I always wanted to write. Growing up, I was always very influenced by the Parade magazine and the Sunday paper, and looking at the back and seeing those rectangular images of the book covers by Gore Vidal and Leon Uris and Stephen King and Danielle Steele, and something in my young mind said, I want to be that. I really do feel that my profession chose me, not the other way around. But as the years went on, the training wheels came off, and I did begin to have confidence in my ability to make and write pure fiction, and that's actually what I ended up doing. I've written several books, and I'm working right now on the second book of a science fiction series.
I'd like, if I may, to read out a review of Social Hill. This novel is supremely written. With that said, after reading this, I'd have to say that I was captivated through it all. Humbled, outraged, stunned, saddened, otherwise speechless. This was written so brutally honest, the author didn't hold anything back from the imagination. You truly get in the head of the characters and feel what they're feeling and can see what they are seeing, just as if you were in the same room as them. Bipolar disease definitely played one of the biggest roles in the father's decision-making. This shows how it doesn't only affect the individual, but all those close and dear to them. There's no dull moment in this story, and the reader will be intrigued to the end and left wanting to know more. Hoping for a sequel. In my opinion, it's not quite over yet. If you're open-minded, this is a must-read, but don't be expecting a Nicholas Sparks kind of read, because Social Hill is anything but warm and fuzzy. Get ready to head into the mind of an individual in the midst of a crucial, rock-bottom time in his life. And there's no going back. If you're looking for a captivating read, you will not be disappointed. That is such a great review. So, Jason, tell me, where can Book Talk Radio Club's listeners purchase Social Hill?
Traditional readers can read the print or paperback version of the book by going to Amazon. They can use an easy link, and it is the following: getbook.at/social. Or if you'd like, as a reader, to listen, it is also on Audible, and simply download the Audible app, type in Social Hill, and you can listen through the app.
Wonderful. All right, well, thank you, Jason. That was so interesting. Please come back on Book Talk Radio Club. I'd love to chat with you and hear more. In the meantime, good luck for the future. And thank you, everyone, for listening to Book Talk Radio Club. Lovely to talk to you.
Likewise.
All right.
Thank you, Claire.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.